Welcome to Booking Through Life's first annual Dickens Awards, where we award the best of 2022. Please grab yourself a drink, relax, and enjoy the show. Our first category is Best Book Cover, and there is 5 nominees, and the nominees are Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, illustrated by J.K. Potter. Isn't that beautiful? Gives you a right good spooky feel. The next book on our list is Jane of Lantern Hill by L.M. Montgomery. It's the Virago Press edition, and the illustration is by Daniela Jaglenka Terrazini. Isn't that beautiful? I love that cover. The next nominee, let me put those down. The next nominee is Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, illustrated by Marjolaine Baston. And this book is gorgeous inside and out. She has just beautiful little, can you see that down there? That butterfly down in the corner? Just, there's birds, beautiful little illustrations throughout, fabulous little inserts of different kinds. All these little things just added to my reading experience as I read this book during Jane Austen July, and it just made my reading experience that much more fabulous. The fourth book for Best Book Cover is The Trouble with Women Artists, Reframing the History of Art, and it's a bunch of very small biographies on different women artists throughout history, and it's written and compiled by Laura Adler and Camille Vivier. And this the cover art is by one of the artists highlighted in the book, and that's Tamara de Lempicka. And I just love this. This doesn't kind of convey the sassy woman artist. I don't know what does. She looks like someone to contend with. And then the final nominee for Best Book Cover is Oscar Wilde's Stories for Children, illustrated by P.J. Lynch. And the book cover is absolutely beautiful, and his artwork is showcased throughout the book and is just gorgeous. Now, before I give the Dickens Award to the winner, I just want to say that for me, these were all winners. That it was hard to choose just one winner from all of these fabulous book covers. But we do have to have a winner. So the winner is The Trouble with Women Artists, Reframing the History of Art. Our second category tonight is our nominations for Best Dedication, and we have 8 in this category. I had a hard time whittling it down. The first is a book we've seen before, and that's Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. And his dedication says, With gratitude to Jeanette Johnson, who taught me how to write the short story, and to Snow Longley Hosh, who taught me poetry at Los Angeles High School and a long time ago, and to Jack Gus, who helped with this novel not so long ago. That's our first nominee. Our second nominee is the book Signs of Attraction by Laura Brown. And her dedication says, to Kari, my cheerleader, you believed in this story when I lost faith. You loved my characters and helped me shape them into who they needed to be, and you pushed me forward when I would have held back. It's because of you this book is what it is. That's very nice. Our third nominee for best dedication is Louise Penny's Still Life. And she has a small dedication, but then in the acknowledgement, she goes a little bit further. So she says, this book is given along with my heart to Michael, and that's her husband. And she says in the acknowledgments, this is for my husband, Michael, who has created a life for us full of love and kindness. He allowed me to quit my job, pretend to write, then gave me unstinting praise, even when what I produced was drivel. I've realized that anyone can be a critic, but it takes a remarkable person to offer praise. Michael is that person. Oh, that makes me want to cry. That's quite lovely. The next book I wanted to mention is actually called A Wicked Conceit, and I don't have it anymore, but it's by Anna Lee Huber, and this is her next book after A Wicked Conceit. Perhaps I'll do the floating book over here. And I only have a part of her dedication in my reading journal, and it says, to medical workers of the COVID-19 pandemic and all previous pandemics, thank you. So that kind of plays into, pandemics kind of play into part of that storyline. So I thought that was really good. And then the next one would be Duty and Desire. It's part of a trilogy written by Pamela Aden, and it's a novel of Fitzwilliam Darcy Gentleman, and it's Darcy's side of Pride and Prejudice. And each one of her books, of the 3 books, is dedicated to someone in her family. And this one says, to my sons, Nathan, Marcus, and Zachary, my gifts to the future. Anyway, as a mom, I really liked that one. And then the final nominee, no, there's 2 more. The second to the last nominee is Jane Austen, The Beautiful Cassandra. And this dedication goes like this. Dedicated by permission to Miss Austen. Madam, you are a phoenix. Your taste is refined, your sentiments are noble, and your virtues innumerable. Your person is lovely, your figure elegant, and your form majestic. Your manners are polished, your conversation is rational, and your appearance singular. If therefore the following tale will afford one moment's amusement to you, every wish will be gratified of your most obedient, humble servant, the author. Wasn't that sweet? And then my final nominee is another book. I checked it out at the library, so I'll have a floating book right here, and that's In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. And hers says, dedication for my family and for anyone everywhere struggling for freedom. So those are the nominees. And again, very difficult to pick out which one would be a favorite. But we'll give the Dickens Award to one of them, and it is, let's see if I can get it out of the envelope. It doesn't want to come out. And the winner is Jane Austen, The Beautiful Cassandra. but definitely Still Life is a runner-up. Okay, now we're getting into the two book categories. And the first category is Best Nonfiction. And I have 5 nominees for that. And the first nominee is Jane Austen's Guide to Good Manners. And that is written by Josephine Ross, illustrated by Henrietta Webb. And I don't have the dust jacket to this. I got this used. It's got adorable little illustrations, and it really added, it's just a cute little book, and it really added to my understanding and enjoyment of Jane Austen books during Jane Austen July. Just knowing some of the rules for dancing, some of the rules for making polite conversation. It's just done in a really easy to use manner, and it's just a cute little book. So that's my first one. My second nominee, why do I want to say nominee? Nomination, I guess. My second nominee for nonfiction is Sacred Rhythms by Ruth Haley Barton. And if you're looking for the spiritual disciplines and how to apply them to your life, this is an excellent book. I read this with some with my we call them community group girlfriends, and like I think I've shared that I started practicing Sabbath. I also want to practice the self-examine, where you look to see, like, did you notice God working? Did you notice God in your day? Are there times where you feel like you missed God or missed opportunities where you could have done something for the kingdom, done something for humanity? Anyway, it's a good book. Really, really enjoyed it. It really was a life-changing book for me. The third nominee is Timothy Keller's Hope in Times of Fear, The Resurrection and the Meaning of Easter. And this, I just had this, there's just book darts throughout this book on things that were particularly meaningful to me. And towards the end, he talks about having joy and hope during suffering, and he gives kind of some practical ways to go about that as you are focusing on the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Anyway, another life transforming book. And then the next book, nonfiction book nominee, is The Trouble with Women Artists. We've seen this one again. I just loved this book. I really, last year in particular, I studied a few women artists for an art class I was taking, and if you'll notice, there's a quote somewhere that 80% of the artwork that we see will be of women, but women aren't really given their due as far as artists are concerned. And like 80% of the artists are men, or even more. And so in recent years, there's been a push to really promote women artists. And like I said before, this is just, I don't know how many biographies it has, just little short biographies there's the list of a lot of different women throughout time. And it's just a really, really good book. Highly enjoyed that. And then the last book I have on the list, and it will be a floating title, is In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. Yeonmi Park. Don't know if I'm saying her name right. But that book is, it's a true story. It's her story of her escape from North Korea into South Korea. And then now I do believe she lives in America. But it is gut-wrenching. It's a hard book to read until you get to the end. It's in 3 different parts, but it was such a fabulous book. So those are our nominees. And again, it's so hard to pick one, but let's see who wins our Dickens Award. And the winner of the 2022 Nonfiction Dickens Award is, next time I'll make these easier to get out, In Order to Live by Unemi Park. Hi, I had a wardrobe change. I didn't really care for that portion of the video that I recorded, so I decided to redo it. And it's a different day, and it's cold and windy and rainy, and I just didn't feel like putting that shirt back on. So we're just casual and in our sweatshirts. So away we go. Here is our final category, and that's Best Fiction Book of 2022. And for that, I have 5 nominees, and here we go. My books are falling over. So the first nominee is Andrew Miller, Now We Shall Be Entirely Free. And this is my first Andrew Miller book. He's a British author, and I absolutely love this book. Of course, it's a nominee. But his writing is just absolutely beautiful, and he can craft a story. So this book is set in 1809. It starts out in Somerset, England. Captain John LaCroix, who is our main character, has just returned from the Battle of Corunna, which was this horrific and cruel battle in the Napoleonic Wars. It happened in Spain, and he's returning to his home in England. And he is wounded, very wounded, both body and soul and mind. And he comes to his home, and his, I guess his maid, or the caretaker of the home, Nellie, she's there, not really expecting him, but when he gets there, she takes care of him and nurses him back to health. And she can nurse all of his wounds, and all of his wounds on the outside, on his body, heal, but his soul is still tormented. You know, we would say he has PTSD today. They didn't have that term then, of course, but he just isn't able to talk about what happened. He isn't able to release. He isn't able to heal from what happened. So he decides to leave and go to Scotland. And is he going to end his life, or is he going to find a new life, or is he going to recreate himself? You're not quite sure. Hopefully I'm remembering correctly, but I don't think you're quite sure what he's doing. But he goes, and he eventually meets this family with a brother and 2 sisters, and then it chronicles his interactions with them. Simultaneously, there's another set of characters. It's an English corporal, he's Corporal Cally, and then a Spanish officer named, I think it's Medina, I think it is. And they've been called to this kind of a hearing to find the truth about what happened during this battle. Captain Cally was there, and the Spanish officer is just going to end up being there to be the Spanish representative in the situation. And there's this hearing, and one of the officials who's responsible for this village that was massacred, he wants some blood. He wants a blood sacrifice on the English side for what happened to his Spanish village. Even if he would never even visited that village, he didn't care. He wanted retribution. So after the hearing, they send out these 2 guys they decide that Captain John LaCroix, since he was in charge of the battalion or the unit, they decided that he's going to be the head that's going to roll. So they are hunting after him. So you're following those 2, and then you're following LaCroix until they converge, and then then things happened. And not to give a spoiler, but I will just say I wasn't totally satisfied. My one thing with this book is I wasn't totally satisfied with the end. If I was the author, I would have done the end a little bit differently. but I'm not the author. But I still recommend this book. It's still really good. And I did get another book by him that I'm excited to read, and I hope I find the ending a little more satisfactory. But anyway, that's nominee number 1. The second nominee is The Windsor Knot by S.J. Bennett. And of course, it's so hard. I know we all have a hard time saying, I love this book. Of course I loved it. It's my top 5. But this book is about Queen Elizabeth as an amateur detective. And it's set in the spring of 2016. She's preparing for her 90th birthday. And there's some kind of there's a bunch of things going on in Windsor Castle. And a bunch of guests. And one of the guests is a young Russian pianist, and he happens to have died. And so it's made to look like he's committed suicide by strangling or hanging himself. But the MI5 discovers that the knot isn't tied very well. And so they think that it's now foul play, and they start to suspect Queen Elizabeth's staff. And so, she'd been known to, since her teen years, to be quite skilled at detective work. And unbeknownst to most people, almost everybody, now you're in on this secret, she would do this if there was an incident at one of her castles. She would do some sleuthing, and she'd kind of secretly feed information to MI5 or Scotland Yard or whoever the investigating department would be. And she was actually solving the crimes. And of course, nobody knew, and she wasn't getting credit for it. She was letting other people get credit for it. But she just kind of liked doing that thing. So she gets involved in this crime. At the same time, she has a new assistant personal secretary named, I'm going to look, I think it's either Rosie Oshodi, and she's a British Nigerian, and she's working for the Queen. She doesn't know when she didn't know when she got hired that she would be the Queen's investigative assistant, and she would be doing her regular job, and she'd be doing these investigating queries on top of her regular job. And there's, I don't want to say a long line, but there was several other women in this position who came before her who also did this for the Queen. And she ends up meeting one, I think this gal was maybe 2 before Rosie. And the girl kind of gives her kind of the, not the tour, but she gives her the initiation, or the trains her, kind of gives her the training on what she's going to know to be the Queen's assistant investigator. And so anyway, it's really cute. I shouldn't say cute, because it's very smartly done. I mean, it reads more like sort of like a Born Identity, maybe not quite to that degree, or Jack Reacher, maybe not quite to that degree, but somewhere in that ballpark. It's not really, I wouldn't really call it cozy. It's not quite cozy, but it's very good. It's very endearing. I think I've said this before. I kind of cried at the end because, I don't know, just the relationship and just the Queen. And I don't know if I was grieving a little bit, but it just was very heartwarming. And so it was kind of a heartwarming tearing up. Anyway, very good. Highly recommend it. The third nominee is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And I really like this book. It's hard to say. Really love this book. So this book is about Nora Stevens. She's a literary agent. She's a literary agent. And then this is, I'm going to look because I forget his name. It's Charlie Lastra, and he's an editor. And they've crossed paths before, but they didn't quite get along. But they keep on bumping into each other. And then, of course, things happened. And then one of the twists on this book is And one of the things I really liked is that Emily Henry, takes kind of a stereotypical trope and kind of turns it upside down or inside out. And that's that usually you have the heroine goes to a small town and she meets the guy, and he has this kind of high-strung, cutthroat girlfriend, and he ends up breaking up with that girl and falling in love with the sweetie girl. And in this book, Nora Stevens is the cutthroat literary agent who's always getting dumped for the sweetie girl. And so she's not your typical heroine. And then Charlie's not quite your typical hero either. But yeah, it's the banter between the two of them is so good. The dialogue is fabulous. It was laugh out loud, funny. Emily Henry is quite witty. It's a little bit on the spicy meter. There's a couple of F-bombs, I think. So not quite a clean romance, but very fun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so I highly recommend this one. The next one is The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. I talked about this one extensively in a prior Booktober video, and I'll leave a little card. I'll try to leave a little card right here that links my emotional response to The Mayor of Casterbridge. But I didn't think I was going to like this book. This was the group read for Booktober, but I really ended up loving it. And it was a hard read. It's not a happily ever after type book. It's not a cozy, cute book, but it's a book that makes you think. It's about Michael Henchard. When he was 21, he sells his wife and daughter to a sailor. Many years later, he's the mayor of Casterbridge, and things start to happen. That lie starts to come out, and his life starts to unravel. Anyway, it's very good. And then finally, we have The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Tracy Chevier. And I could have easily picked this book or the unicorn book, The Girl and the Unicorn. I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, because I read them both this year, and they're both equally good, but I picked this one. This is about, so let me back up. On both of those books, the author, Tracy Chevier, takes a piece of artwork there's not a whole lot known about either the artist or the artwork, and she fabricates a story around, a fictionalized story around the piece of artwork. And she's a very good writer. She's a little crude or a little gritty, but I think these were kind of gritty times. This was written in set in 1664. Vermeer is the artist, and 16-year-old, I'm going to say Griet, G-R-I-E-T is the name of the girl. She must leave her family because her father has had an accident, and he's a tile painter, and he's no longer able to paint tile. And so she has to go and work as a maid for Vermeer. And she meets with a lot of opposition in the Vermeer household. There's probably one daughter of Vermeer who befriends her or is at least nice to her, but the other daughter, the mother, and one of the other servants are quite, especially the servant, is quite cruel, and there's some harsh things that really happen. Greet, probably because she comes from an artistic family, has an artistic vein in her own makeup, and she becomes fascinated with Vermeer and his paintings and his painting process, and ends up becoming sort of an assistant to him. And so this chronicles what happens as she becomes the maid and becomes the assistant and becomes kind of closer and closer to Vermeer, and how that affects her and how that affects the household. And like I said, Tracy Chevier can tell a good tale, and this was a very good book. So that's my last one. Those are my nominees. So let's see who won. The winner is of the 2022 Best Fiction Dickens Award is, it's going to be a surprise, Emily Henry's Booklovers. He might be rolling over in his grave thinking that I picked this book. I could have very easily picked any one of those books. They were all good. I chose Booklovers because it made me laugh out loud, so much so that my husband would say to me when we were on vacation, I was reading this, and he would say to me, "Wow, why are you laughing?" I would just say, "The dialogue is so funny. Listen to this." So yeah, this book just really made me happy. I thought it was going to be a throwaway book, but I think I want to read it again sometime. So for me, it was that good. And like I said, just laugh out loud. I loved it. So not usually I would pick a book like this to be a best book of the year, but this year it's just what I needed. So it was very good. Now I have an honorable mention. It's kind of in its own category. I didn't want to pick any Jane Austen books for like my best of, because they would always be best ofs, and Pride and Prejudice will win. If I read Pride and Prejudice in the year, it's going to win, hands down. So I didn't want to pick it in that category, but I did want to say that this one does receive a Dickens Award for being the best overall reading experience I had this year. It's a fabulous, beautiful story that I absolutely love. This edition is gorgeous. It feels fabulous. The pages, when you turn it, are fabulous. It has, as you know, as I've shown before, it has fabulous end papers. And it's just got all kinds of beautiful little embellishments throughout the book. And then it has these inserts. You've got the map of London. I showed that other one. You've got an invitation somewhere. You've got a little biography on Jane Austen. A letter. Oh, the Fitzwilliam Darcy letter. The letter. So it's just a fabulous, fabulous read. Some music. And it just added to my whole reading experience. So for best overall read of the year, Pride and Prejudice, illustrated by Marjolaine Baston. Okay, that's it for my 2022 Dickens Awards. Thank you, Charles, for being here tonight and representing the best of. And yeah, we'll see you next year. Until then, you can just hang out back here. And please feel free to like and subscribe. If you're still here, thank you for watching till the bitter end, till the crickets. And if you've read any of these books, please let me know how you would rank them, or let me know what your top book for the year, your top cover, your top, if you read dedications, what was your favorite dedication, your top nonfiction, and your top fiction. And if you had a book that just, the overall experience was just perfection. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you later, and I hope all of your books are as good as this book. And have a great day. Bye.